everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies! Hey!
You gotta make up for no Shannon. You gotta.
That's right.
You gotta dive in.
Gotta bring it. We're missing a cough afterwards this early in the morning. But listen,
we are buddies. We're finally tuned machine, everybody. It's me, Shannon McClung.
This is my unshaved beard. Do you like it? We are here with our midday episode, and as we've been mentioning, Shannon McClung, he is not joining us today because he's had a very busy month with work and everything like this. But things will be back to normal. He'll be back appearing on the show more consistently here starting next week. At least that's what he's promised us. So we will look forward to that. Definitely later on in the week, the three of us will get back together, cover a lot of stuff going on at CinemaCon and all of that. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And we got so much to get into, Michael. So much going on in the world of geekdom and nerddom here. We got some John Boyega comments. We got some Superman leaks. We're not going to get too deep in the leaks. We're going to talk about it, though. The KANG Dynasty leaks. And, of course, we're going to jump into Sony because as we're recording this, Sony's panel was presented last night at CinemaCon. 2.5 hours getting into Spider-Man 4, Beyond the Spider-Verse stuff. There's so much that we talk. The Karate Kid, the Beatles, there's so much there. So we're going to do that as our main topic. Go ahead. Yes. What do you
you texted me yesterday and we were trying to figure out the schedule with Shannon's job. And you're like, well, should we do a Tuesday show and a Thursday show or a Wednesday show and a Friday? We talk about it. And I was like, should we do a Tuesday show? I don't know that there's a lot to talk about. And then literally as soon as I said it, it was like, oh no shit. We're going to talk about everything. Okay, let's do it. We got everything to talk about.
There is a lot. So just a reminder, though, to remind you all to please subscribe to the channel down below and hit that bell button. Leave your comments as well on all the stuff we're talking about here. We'd love to read your comments for sure. And then follow us all on our social medias, both as the Geek Buddies and separately individually. We would love that as well. So let's get into the first topic here. Let's get into the John Boyega comments here. Michael, John Boyega called out Star Wars for being, quote, so white during an interview as part of the new Apple TV Plus original documentary here. Number one on the call sheet, Black Leading Men in Hollywood. This was copied over here onto Entertainment Weekly. Here are his quotes. Let me tell you, Star Wars always had the vibe of being in the most whitest elite space. It's a franchise that's so white that a black person existing in it was something. You can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are in the cookie dough. It's like they just scattered that in there, bro. They're okay with us playing the best friend, but once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we blaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much. They're pandering. He also said that this was a fundamental moment in his career. So he was very clear about the opportunity he got to do this. And don't forget, back in 2020, he went after Star Wars itself, saying that they really messed up his character, Rose Tico's character, and a number of characters throughout the years, and gave more nuance to Kylo Ren and to Rey. And so this was some interesting comments here overall from him, Michael, but stuff we've kind of heard over the years, but this was just the latest where he pointed out some of the fans, not all the fans, some of the fans. And so what are your thoughts on these comments and your feeling overall on John saying this now at this point?
I mean, show me the lie. Show me the lie. What did he say that is not provably true when you look at Star Wars?
Fair point.
And I mean, I think that what sucks is you can argue this both ways. He also says later in the article that he had a very frank discussion with a Disney executive or a Lucasfilm executive, and that they kind of explained their perspective and everything. And you can do an entire song and dance about how, well, between J.J. Abrams and then Rian Johnson and your storyline, and it just seemed, and Finn, because it is 100% true that Finn got lost in the shuffle of that trilogy.
Yeah.
And did they do it purposely because they were like, we don't want to focus on the black man? Probably not. But did they maybe unintentionally lean on the whiter characters as the leads, and the best friend got shifted to the side? You can argue why it happened and whether it was intentional or unintentional. But what is true is that Finn, Rose Tico, other characters of color got shifted to the side 100% in that movie. And what really sucks about Finn is the basis of that character is great.
Yeah.
Like a stormtrooper who was raised a stormtrooper who said, I don't want a stormtrooper anymore and leaves is a really rich and interesting character. And then on top of that, to sort of make Finn a Jedi also, but not really, and kind of do it on screen, but kind of not do it on screen in Rise of Skywalker is also kind of insulting. Like he had to play some shitty stuff.
Yeah.
And I would be pissed if I was him.
Yeah.
And when you look at Hollywood and you look at our geek franchises, it's kind of true. Like, yes, everyone will point to Black Panther. Everyone will, whoa, look at Black Panther. I mean, T'Challa's great. Yeah, well, where is the Armor Wars movie?
Right.
Where's Armor Wars?
Yeah.
So, you know, it is true that, like, when we look at all of our geek franchises, although you could argue there is better representation now than there used to be, where that representation falls and how focused that representation is and how many of those representatives are leads of the movies and leads of the franchises, he's 100% correct. And I would be pissed as well.
Yeah, for a lot of us growing up, we loved the movies, right? We enjoyed the movies. We that's what we had to watch in the theaters. And so we went to see them and we loved them and certainly enjoyed it. As you get older, though, it is right to kind of look back and take a look at a lot of the sci-fi, a lot of the superhero stuff. A lot of them was created by white men. So majority white men in large numbers are leading these things. And then below that, white women are leading these things. And so when you look at this, you go, where am I? Like, that's my constant complaint about Star Trek. And there's no bigger fan of Star Trek than me. But the only Latino I had was Khan. You know, I didn't have any Latinos to look at. I'm like,
explains a lot about how your personality developed the way that it did.
Fair, and how I like to show off my hairy chest. But like this situation here, you see is like, where am I in Star Trek? But I find the universality of emotions and feelings and adventures. That's what I get caught up in. So you see this thing with Star Wars. We all grew up enjoying it and what have you. But it's okay to go back and look at it and go, hey, man, you know what? We need more representation. Why wasn't there more representation? And that's what John is kind of saying. Anytime there's an attempt to have some representation in Star Wars lately over the last few years, there's certainly been this massive pushback on it. And it's always under the same thing. Oh, they're pandering. They're doing it because they want to be woke. Instead of like, let's see what the product is like and let's see if it's good or not. White leads always seem to get the benefit of the doubt. Obviously less so white women, obviously, because there's also a pushback on women leading stuff that you see from certain sections of the fandom. And I don't think John is wrong to say the things from his perspective as a black man experiencing Star Wars inside and out. A lot of these people who are commenting on have never been inside the actual Star Wars machine. He was. So he's got a clear point of view that I think should be respected here. And he's very clear to say some. He's not saying all, and he's not blaming the fandom overall. He's blaming some members of the fandom who get upset about any black person doing anything. We saw that recently, right, with Amandla Steinberg and all that she got on the Acolyte. Also, I want to bring up Christina Ariel. Remember her when she was going to host that High Republic show? Immediately, people say, "Oh, they put a black woman in there because they needed to," and they discredit the fact that the amount of work that she put in to get the job. So there are some people just that are invested in pushing these narratives for their financial gain. There are some who might be legitimately upset about this and authentically have real issues to bring up. But I think John's okay to talk about this stuff openly. And also back in 2018, Michael, we're not thinking the same way as we are in 2025 about this kind of stuff. So, you know, I think it would be different.
Well, and I think there's two, like, one is because, like, in the comment, people are like, I thought you loved Star Wars. I love Star Wars. And you can love a franchise just like you love Star Trek. Like, you can love a franchise and go, but also this is true.
Right.
Like, I love Star Wars. I love the original trilogy. I actually have come to really respect aspects of the prequels. I love all of Star Wars animation. I love a good bit of the Star Wars TV stuff. And the new trilogy, even though it drives me up a wall crazy, I will always defend Last Jedi, that it's really interesting. And I like a lot of the characters that came out of that new trilogy. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I like. And you can also say Star Wars as a franchise is very reticent to put a person of color or any kind of minority in that lead role. Partly it is because of aspects of the fan base. Partly it is because of international box office and certain areas of the country, or certain areas of the globe being less open to people of color than other areas of the globe. And so, you know, there's a lot of reasons that you can go, well, this is why, and the box office and the studio executives, you can excuse a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that John Boyega is right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change the fact that he's right broadly in the way that Hollywood works and the way that a lot of geek culture works.
Yeah.
But he's also specifically right in the fact that the role that he got, when he got the role, and like, you know, he got this huge break, Star Wars put him on the map, put him on the stage, but he was so excited to be in this movie. And then each movie subsequently, you were like, God, they really just did nothing with him.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that is a problem, and it's a thing that he should continue to talk about.
I agree. Yeah, the Finn and Phasma storyline really could have had some great nuance to it and some levels to it. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
When I look at the new trilogy, and I've watched the new trilogy all the way through a handful of times. Like I'll kind of go through and I'll get in a mood and I'll just put on Force Awakens. Like I'll watch all three of them in like a little chunk over a couple of days, and the Finn Phasma shit really irks me hard. Like there's so much potential there. And in the bigger sense, the idea of Finn as this stormtrooper wanting to fight the system, free his buddies. Like there's 1,000 different storylines you could have done. And the fact that they sort of, again, in the shittiest way possible, implied that he was a Jedi. Right. And if you do watch any of like the Lego specials or other stuff, like Finn canonically is Force sensitive now, but like you wouldn't necessarily know that if you watch the movie. You'd get maybe a hint of it. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. Like there's a whole idea that Rey and Finn, what brought them together wasn't just chance, wasn't just BB-8. It was the Force. Like there's so many ways that this story could have been so much more interesting. And just because of the way it went and the JJ and Ryan of it all and the Kathleen Kennedy of it all and the Disney of it all, like blame whoever you want. But that's where, even though there are things about the new trilogy that are good, that's where it really does fall apart. And for Finn and for Rose Tico and for a lot of these characters, they were the ones that suffered the most. Rey and Kylo Ren, they got out fine. Oscar Isaac, like Poe Dameron, got out fine. Didn't do a lot. Right. But sure, he's cool. Fine. And it really is Finn who got the worst of it. Yeah, I agree. Finn who got kind of shuddered to the side. And I mean, even Poe had that storyline with Leia, you know, that you saw in Last Jedi. So there was remnants of that, and he was leading a crew. So there was more for him to do. Whereas Finn, I think there was a lot more to explore that was left on the table that could have been real exciting. And of course, they could have also been commentary about them taking this young black kid out of whatever village they took him from after they did, and then put him into this situation, and him realizing that following these people was not what he's supposed to do. And coming to this, having this come to Jesus moment, so lack of a better term, and then figuring out where he goes next. There's a real heroic arc for Finn that if you had spent time with it, would have delivered like gangbusters. If you've done it like you did Luke, like you did Han Solo, like you did Leia, it would have delivered like crazy by the end. And there were rumors that, you know, they didn't want to have an interracial relationship storyline, which is why they kind of moved her over to Kylo. I don't know how much of that is true, but it certainly sounds like it could have been true. And then they kind of changed their mind, so to speak. I mean, look, everybody who knows that Finn and Poe is the real relationship of Star Wars. So whatever. Fair point. But no, and like to anybody who's like, well, you know, you have to choose, because like you can, like, I've heard every version of it's because of this and well, it was Rey and Kylo was the most important thing. But like, really, at the end of the day, when you look at the original trilogy, like Luke, Han, and Leia, all get great stories. All three of them. And Darth Vader obviously gets a great story. He's Darth Vader. So there's no reason that Finn, Poe, Rey, and Kylo couldn't all have had great arcs. And again, it all comes back to the same thing. They could have had great arcs if anybody had actually planned an arc. And we all know that nobody planned an arc, and that's where it got lost in the shuffle. And so, again, that's where you would hear an executive say, well, it wasn't a race thing. It was just, you know, we were doing this and focusing in this. And you're like, yeah, but this is what always happens. Yeah, right. It's what always happens. So, like, when it happens over and over and over, and eventually you're like, yeah, well. Yeah. And I would encourage our
people who may have an issue with this, think about this. Think if it was reverse. If this was a franchise that was so big that always had black people or people of color in the leads and stars and the storylines, and it was constantly the white people getting shuttered to the side or getting minimized or their characters getting pushed aside or their storylines not really being fleshed out, you might have an issue with it. So it's just that kind of thing where you got to put yourself in the other person's shoes or the other people's shoes and try to see it from their point of view and how you would feel about it. So I think that's what Boyega at the end is just trying to make it clear. Like these old excuses of like, oh, well, you had Lando or you had Mace. They're not going to work anymore as we go forward because we're a much more diverse world. And there's clearly plenty of phenomenal diverse actors who can be in these franchises and we shouldn't shut them out. All right, well, there you go. Let's leave the world of Star Wars. Let's jump into the world of DC here, Michael. There is this whole last few days, there's been a lot of Superman leaks ripping through the world of social media. Regular test screenings are starting to happen now, so major spoilers for Superman are leaking online. Just a fair warning, we are not going to specifically spoil anything because that's not what we do on the show, but we are going to talk about the fact that these spoilers are popping up all over the place, and these spoilers having to do with specific plot stuff, including things going on with the Fortress of Solitude, Luthor's real part in the film, stuff with Superman himself, stuff with Jimmy Olsen, stuff with Supergirl coming in. Some really hardcore stuff has been revealed in terms of plot lines and storylines and what have you overall. Also, a major spoiler was revealed, Michael, about who is playing Jor-El. I don't know if people have seen that or missed that, but certainly Jeff knew that days ago. We sat on in the hot mic. We didn't reveal it because we didn't want to spoil it. And then a guy spoiled it because he got challenged on Reddit, who had seen one of the screenings and revealed it. Now everybody knows about, or people know about it. So what are your thoughts on the reactions? I saw some people go like, they should go to jail for revealing this stuff. So what are your thoughts on the spoilers reactions and the spoilers specifically that you've been seeing?
Well, they're kind of like, it's two things really. One is I think Superman fans need to get their shit under control on social media. Like,
explain.
Like I tweeted it this morning or last night. Like Superman fans are giving toxic Superman fans are giving toxic Star Wars fans a run for their money this week. Like it is like guys, I get it. Like you loved Christopher Reeve. You loved Henry Cavill. You were excited about what Zack Snyder was going to do. Like it is what it is.
Right.
Like why keep relitigating this and why heap all of your anger and hatred on a movie that hasn't even come out yet and you don't know how it's going to be?
Yeah.
Is Superman going to be good? I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know. James Gunn is really great in some ways and really disappointing in some ways.
Yeah.
I love Creature Commandos until the last episode, and I thought he shit the bed on it.
Yeah.
I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3 is as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 1, but I think both of them have really nice moments. Like, so is Superman going to be a mixed bag? Probably. Is it going to be the perfect, greatest Superman movie ever made? Probably not. But what Superman movie is the greatest Superman movie ever made? I love Donner Superman.
Yeah.
There's got some cheesy stuff in it. Like, there's like parts of Superman and Superman 2, which everyone holds up as amazing and kneel before Zod. Go watch that fight scene at the end in Metropolis. Like where everybody is getting attacked by wind machines. Like there's cheesy stuff. Superman Returns is sort of universally loathed for good reason, but there's some nice stuff in it. And then Man of Steel, even though obviously John and a lot of you love it a lot more than I do, is also not perfect. They're all flawed. Sure. They're not great. And so James Gunn is coming in. He's relaunching the DC universe. And what everyone is doing, it's just like fucking Star Wars all over again. Yeah. Like the more that everyone online goes fucking insane before the movie even comes out, the more fucking David Zaslav gets stressed out and anxious about the entire DC universe itself. Yeah. And if we end up review bombing the movie and slamming the movie for all of these things and all this stuff and like all of these things happen and it's like, you know what that means? That means no DC universe. That means it all goes away. So like, let's just stop this. Now, all that being said, I did read the leaks because I knew we were going to talk about it. And even though I kind of didn't want to be spoiled, I was like, all right, well, I got to read this. And some of it sounds stupid.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of it sounds fine. Like some of it, I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's a different take. This is interesting. This sounds a little complicated. Let's see how it plays. Ooh, that really doesn't sound great. I hope that doesn't go that way. But like, you know what? I'm going to wait and see how it plays in the movie.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this. I understand people, how can I say this? I understand people getting upset about the leaks. I saw someone, I forget his name, Luis Fernando, I think his name is, who was like, oh my God, they shouldn't drop these leaks. They should be put in jail or stopped from this kind of stuff. And it's like, you built your following revealing stuff that people are spoiling or whatever. So it seems a bit like switching of the goalposts or moving the goalposts around whenever it's convenient. And the truth is, this is a culture now where scoops, and I know being part of the hot mic, that is definitely a big calling card for Jeff, is his ability to scoop some of the stuff. And most of the time he's right, and some of the time he's wrong. And that's just how it goes. And so that's part of the game. But spoiling stuff, I think, is always a dangerous thing. And it's almost nefarious. I think it's also ego driven. Like, look at me, I've got this information. Look at me. And but you're also running the risk of ruining a lot of people's experience. And yeah, I looked through some of the spoilers. I agree with just about everything Michael said. There's some cool stuff here in the spoilers. There's also some stuff like, what? But then I'm also being like, well, let's see how this plays. Let's see how it plays within the context of the film, because you can take anything, almost anything out of context, put it up on the wall, and then you're like, that's terrible. And then you see the way they build to it and go, oh, well, maybe that does work a little bit better than I thought.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
If you told me, 6-7 years ago, you're like, guys, in Endgame, Thor is fat and an alcoholic. I'd be like, ooh, what? Thor's a fat alcoholic? What the fuck are they doing? What? Ooh, I don't know, man. You know what? It's my fucking favorite part of the movie. I love it. He's the funniest part of that movie. So like, you never know. And I think like anybody could point out, we obviously on the Geek Buddies, like when there's a set photo revealed, and we'll post the set photo. We'll talk. This is not an all or nothing thing. There are certain things that when it's leaked that somebody's going to be in a movie, or somebody closed their deal to appear in something, or there's a set photo, it's a balance as a geek to go, oh, well, this is interesting. I mean, another perfect example with Endgame was when it was revealed with set photos. We saw all of the original Avengers in their original outfits from the Battle of New York. Well, okay, so like that is interesting. It's where people are like, oh, it looks like time travel is involved. Like, what does this mean? Like, there's like certain leaks that are fun to sort of conjecture. What happened here with Superman is somebody literally writing out almost every major plot point of the movie. Yeah. And at a certain point, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, I would have much preferred, and then we would talk, if you're, oh, well, I'm going to walk a fine line here to make my point. Yeah. But if somebody was like, oh, the way they're doing the Clark and Lois relationship is a little bit different than what you expect. I think Jimmy Olsen has some stuff that is kind of really cheesy. And like, there's some plot contrivances with Jimmy Olsen that I think don't ultimately work. Like, there's a way to say things that you're like, okay, I just spoiled-ish some things, but not in a way that's like, here's every beat of the movie and let's throw it on the pile of the rabid Star Wars fan base and watch them all rip something apart. Like, it's just not fun.
But is this who we are now? Because I mean, we're battling here. Because I mean, My Time to Shine Hello dropped a tweet here where he said that there's no real central plot to the movie, just Lex scheming in different ways to go after Superman, and then he adds some extra stuff, which I'm not going to reveal. You can find the tweet if you want. But then there were other people who were saying, no, I came out of a screening and people were standing up and clapping and saying it was the greatest thing ever. Everybody loved it and was amazing. And so you're seeing that there's this battle all across this on how Superman is being received. What is it about this movie that people have to bring all of this stuff to, where now this is the thing we're battling about? Now, this is the thing. Is this now our geek culture constantly? Is like whatever comes out geek-wise, we're just going to battle on it. People are going to have their own agendas, and there's going to be, how can I say, there's going to be bad faith actors involved who are going to either leak stuff or purposely misconstrue stuff or twist the narrative around in order to get people's feelings going in a certain direction because they have their own biases against this situation. Well, like, what is going on?
I mean, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And I'm then going to probably have to turn off my Twitter for 5 days after I ask this question. But,
Okay.
like, is it the Snyder Bros? Like, with Superman specifically, what's happening right now with Superman in DC, how much of it is just Twitter in general has a lot of feelings about Superman?
Yeah.
And how much of this is a direct, I had this thing that I was excited about.
Yeah.
And Zack Snyder has laid out the entirety of his plan of what it all meant and why the Flash came back and said it's all about Lois and everything that was going to happen in the dark future. And like, we've all read what Zack Snyder wanted to do. Yeah. And a lot of people were like, that would have been awesome.
Right.
And then James Gunn comes along. And from the moment James Gunn was like, I'm going to launch my DC universe, I'm doing Silver Age stuff, I'm doing like the weirder stuff that people don't touch, there has been this, James Gunn is the reason that I don't get my cool Superman story.
Right.
And that has then coalesced into, this movie is going to be stupid. David Cornsweet does not look like Superman. He's a douche. Why isn't Henry Cavill Superman? Look at this costume. What a downgrade. Look at the wrinkles on the suit. You could literally go, oh my God, what is this shot? David Cornsweet's face looks dumb. This is not how people fly. Let me write you a diagram on physics on how a person flies and why they have to put their arms forward. Like, every single thing that's happened is, why don't I get Henry Cavill? Why can't I get my Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Zack Snyder movie? Yeah. And those Snyder Bros are so vehement in their defense of what they love.
Yeah.
And I think that has sort of just snowballed into this dog pile on Superman. And then I think on the other side of it, to say it's not just them, then you have your classic Star Wars fans who just love Christopher Reeve and love the Donner version.
Your classic Superman fans,
That's what I meant. Yeah, Superman. Sorry, they're your classic Superman fans who love the Donner version and love Christopher Reeve, and they're like, "Oh, I really hope James Gunn doesn't fuck this up because I didn't like Man of Steel and I want this lighter Superman." And James Gunn said everything right, but they're so nervous that anytime they read anything that doesn't feel exact, or that, oh, he changed the lore, oh, he changed this thing about Krypton, then they're like wringing their hands and being like, oh God, I hope he doesn't fuck this up. So you have like people who are like, I hate this thing before it even comes out. Right. And you have these people that are like, I really hope he doesn't fuck this up, and I'm worried every time. Oh, Jimmy Olsen does what?
Yeah.
Wait, what is Lex's plan? I don't know. Oh God. And so like, there's only like a very on Twitter, there's only like a handful of people that are like, yeah, I hope it's good. I'm excited. I love Superman.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your question? You said you wanted to ask me the question.
Is it the Snyder Bros? It was the Snyder Bros. Is it
Snyder
Bros?
I think it's, and by the way, we should say Snyder Bros is not gender specific, even though it sounds gender specific, because I've seen some female fans going after Star Wars with large following, or sorry, Superman with large followings.
And it's also not everyone who likes the Zack Snyder movies.
Agree. Just as John Boyega said, it's probably some of the Snyder Bros who are doing this, because I do consider myself a fan and a lover of Zack Snyder's approach to DC.
Yes.
But even Ben Affleck,
you're wrong, but I respect it.
Thank you. But even Ben Affleck said recently, my son was watching the Zack Snyder movies and said they were getting too dark for him, and that's when I knew maybe we weren't going in the right direction. So if the Batman from the Snyder universe tells you that his own son wasn't really into the darker approaches to the DC universe, that tells you that some contingent of the fandom was being turned off by this approach, and maybe arguably the most important contingent, which is these younger fans, were possibly being turned off. That being said, there's enough to enjoy from the Snyder approach. We got a 4-hour Justice League movie. That is amazing. And to me,
1 hour of which was Norwegian people singing.
Well, yeah, it was very enjoyable to see them sing. I don't have a bias against Norwegian people, as you apparently seem to have. I really enjoyed. So there's enough for us to enjoy. And now I'm like, look, we've moved on. There's a new Superman coming. There's a new approach. Let's see what's going to happen. And so, yeah, I stopped reading the leaks about halfway through. So I was like, you know what? I just want to see the film when it comes out and put it in context. Well, I still want to talk about like general overall stuff, the episodic feel versus an overall narrative feel. What is James Gunn's approach here? Is he trying to fulfill the demands of an entire universe like Feige does now with all the Marvel movies? He's got to make sure all these characters are in to launch storylines. that's what I want to see. So yeah, I'm kind of at the point where it's like, let's stop revealing shit and just wait for this thing to come out and see what we're gonna get.
Yeah, I like honestly, July can't get here soon enough. Like whether the movie's good or bad, I don't care. We're gonna have our review of it.
Yes.
I'm sure that like one of us is gonna love it, one of us will be disappointed. Like it'll be what it'll be, and then we'll actually litigate the film on its own merits. But the other thing I want to say, and this is where, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, is that the pressure on this movie, both on social media and internally at Warner Brothers, is so high. And like we talked, I'll use the exact same example. If the pressure on Captain America, the first Avenger, was as great as this movie is, we would never have Infinity War or Endgame. The third act of Captain America is a little silly. Like, Captain America, beginning of that movie's awesome. Everything up until he rescues Bucky and everybody, I'm like, I am all on board. Then there is a montage of war, and then they battle the Red Skull. Like, it is the back half of that movie that has great moments. Like him saying goodbye to Peggy is still one of my favorite moments in all of Marvel. But the third act of Captain America is not the most badass thing in the entire world. The first Thor movie, it gets a little clumsy. The first Thor movie, not my favorite thing in the Marvel universe. So like, again, these things were allowed to grow and develop. Even if Superman is not the end all be all of Superman movies that has ever existed, these characters and this universe can still go on to be awesome. And we need to give it a chance to grow. We shouldn't step on it before it's even had a chance to bloom.
Well, I think the irony is that no one's going to kill the superhero comic book universe being a predominantly massive a part of the box office quicker than the superhero comic book movie fans. No one else is going to kill it quicker than them. And we see it already. You're starting to hear the dialogue already from actors who are turning away from these universes, turning away from being a part of these things, because they say how difficult it is to be a part of it, how much it takes. Elizabeth Olsen said she is not going to be in Endgame or Doomsday. And people keep saying, why didn't she show up in Doomsday? She's very clear, like she's not satisfied with that stuff. And the amount of time it takes out of your life when you're doing it is too much. And so I think, and the deal you get with the fans, like, is it worth it? And I think that's what's eventually going to kill it. And look, all those fans who are killing it are going to blame the studios, blame the writers, blame the creatives, blame the casting. They're never going to blame themselves, even though they themselves are really going to be a massive part of why this thing ends up blowing up when it does.
Well, and also, like, just to be clear, you cannot like a movie, and that's fine.
Of course.
Like, when it comes out, you can be disappointed. You can say they shit the bed. You can say, I don't think I want this universe. Like, I'm not saying that you have to like every movie that comes out so we get more movies, but like, it's the vitriol and the hatred that leads up to it that I think is just ridiculous. Like, once the movie comes out, let the movie be the movie. Like, we can all say that Rise of Skywalker is not good and they should shift gears. Like, that's fine. You know, like there's, you know, like after a movie comes out, if Doomsday comes out and we're like, wow, they really fucked that up, then we should say fucked it up. But leading up to it, let's wait and see what they do.
Yeah. Fair point, Mike. All right, let's move on to some other leaks that are a little less emotional.
These are fun leaks because it's something that's we're never gonna see. This is, now that we just had an entire, we don't like leaks. All right, now let's leak this this KANG Dynasty stuff. This is a leak that's fine because this is never going to see the light of day. This is actually more interesting than anything else.
Yes, this KANG Dynasty leaks. Yeah, the King's. We saw that director Destin Daniel Cretton was just on. We'll talk about him in a second, talking about Star Wars but he was originally going to helm the KANG Dynasty here, and he's doing Spider-Man 4 now. And neither Michael Waldron nor Jeff Loveness are attached to write this movie, but there were some spoilers that were reviewed about the script that came online. Someone dropped it online, and this was according to a scooper. Separate Avengers teams were set out to, and this is Alex Perez at the Cosmic Circus. He shared this. According to him, separate Avengers teams set out to help Immortus, Centurion, and Rama Tut, the three Kang variants teased at the end of Quantumania. However, the Conqueror variant was going to return from the, quote, beyond in the third act to take revenge against his doppelgangers and become He Who Remains. We know that's part of the Kang legacy. It's unclear what would have happened from there heading into Avengers Secret Wars, but with history repeating itself and the multiverse once again destroyed, we've heard surviving heroes from several different realities were set to battle the Beyonder in the void, and it said that Doctor Doom was never a part of Marvel Studios' original plans for the two-part multiverse saga finale. Instead, he and others were to be revealed as being among those removed from the timeline by Kang to ensure they could thrive. However, once those variants had been defeated, Doom was teased as the, quote, evil they were trying to keep at bay with their actions. Now you're getting the aftermath of what would have basically been the next saga, but with Doom at the forefront instead of Kang mixed in with a couple of ideas from the previous script. So it's very clear, Michael, that Doom was never going to be a part of the Kang Dynasty, and he was going to be moved into the next phase with the X-Men, Fantastic Four, what have you. But they clearly moved Doom now to be a part of this thing to replace Jonathan Majors because of what happened there off screen with him and his situation. So what are your thoughts on these? I mean, we're going deep into the Marvel cuts here on this, man. What are your thoughts on where they were going with this Kang Dynasty?
I mean, given that the post-credit sequence of Quantumania is the Council of Kangs, I mean, this does seem legit. You know, it was funny reading it. I was like, you know, I'm good. I'm good. Like, we've had a lot of Kang in Loki and Quantumania, and like, you know, it's. I think that this might be. We'll see how it all turns out. But it feels like it might be a blessing in disguise. Like, I think even if everything on Marvel had been firing on all cylinders, and Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, and Quantumania had all just sort of like gotten us more and more amped. Like, the thing about Thanos is, aside from a post-credit sequence and sort of a supporting role in Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos didn't really Thanos until Infinity War. And when he showed up at the beginning of Infinity War and killed Loki, like, it was like, this is a thing. With Kang, we've seen Kang a lot. Like, you know, he was all over Loki season 2. He was in Quantumania. So then when you're like, well, the big movie is going to be a bunch of different teams of Avengers chasing different Kangs, and then they all fight in the void. I'm like, yeah, I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. I've seen a fight in the void. Like, everything about that part. Now, granted, maybe Deadpool and Wolverine would have been different. Maybe they would have done different things. So maybe this big battle in the void would have felt new. But kind of given where we're at now, a lot of this feels a little bit like, okay. Also, just as a fan of Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars run in the comics and the Avengers run leading up to it, it feels like what we're getting now is a lot closer to what I assume is Secret Wars than what we were getting then. Like, so now granted, there's still the incursions and the multiverse collapsing, but the one thing I did think was cool, and for all the people that are not happy that Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Doom, this is the one nugget that I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty cool. The idea that Kang removed super powerful people from the timeline so that he could rule, and Doctor Doom was one of them, and that's why we've never seen Doctor Doom, and that post Kang and post Secret Wars, some of these characters, some of these big heavy hitters from the Marvel universe that we've not seen up to this point all of a sudden are back in the mix. That was a cool idea. Like that, I was like, that specifically was cool. But kind of given where we're at right now, even despite the fact that I think the Multiverse Saga ultimately is a very wobbly saga compared to the Infinity Saga, I think I'm more excited about where we're going than where we could have gone.
Well, yeah, we know this, Mike. You and I been watching entertainment since we were kids.
For a long time.
But as we get older and we read the books and read the articles and hear in interviews about the behind the scenes stuff, we know that happy accidents sometimes happen to help people, to help situations falling into a pit. So maybe the way this all played out was the way it was supposed to play out. Not that anyone should have been assaulted or what have you, but the way it all played out has kind of opened the door for a better situation overall with the way they're making it work, possibly, you know, because I haven't been sold on Jeff, was it Loveness? Yeah, Jeff Loveness or Michael Waldron's script, although I did enjoy the first season of Loki. So, but like overall, it's like you start to wonder, would have been they make this work? The Beyonder coming in is a hell of a way to introduce over the two things would have just been so weird to me. You got to kind of build up to the Beyonder and how you want to do it. I think theatrically, you know, when you're reading a comic, you throw the Beyonder, that makes sense. But theatrically, you've got to build the Beyonder to show up in some way, shape, or form. So you lay the groundwork first for that to happen. But yeah, I don't trust that they would have gotten this correct in the end, and it might have hurt Marvel way worse by the end than it would have otherwise. So yeah, I agree with you. But it also means, and I wonder what you think about this, it feels like we're not going to be done with RDJ after Secret Wars. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that he might be staying on. So does it sound to you from what they were planning, since they were already planning for Doom to be in the next phases, that Doom will be the one coming out of this whole thing in the end, coming out and being the big evil, still going into the new phases?
Maybe not. I mean, I don't know exactly how they're going to thread this needle, but I do know one of the things that, just given all the rumors of casting and everything we've heard, and again, we say this every week, I feel like now, the 20th Century Fox X-Men are not going to be the X-Men in the Mutant Saga. We are going to be recast. It's not going to be James Marsden as Cyclops. There is a new Scott Summers coming. So in some way, shape, or form, however things land in Secret Wars, there's going to be a little bit of this like soft reboot. And so some characters are going to remain, and some characters are going to be reimagined, reinvented. Now, how are they going to do that? Is that going to be too confusing for your average movie-going fan? A lot of questions. I don't know. But in the same way that they're going to do that with X-Men, there's the potential they could do that with Doom. Is Robert Downey Jr. going to stay on and just be part of the Marvel Universe for the rest of his days? If the money truck is big enough, maybe. But there's also a perfect opportunity here if they're going to do it with mutants and some other characters, to go a Tony Stark variant that became Doctor Doom is the character of Doomsday in Secret Wars. But then when we get back to this Marvel universe where there are new mutants and other things, now there's a Latveria. Now there is our more traditional Doctor Doom who becomes a Fantastic Four villain or whatever. Again, is that too confusing for your average movie-going audience? Maybe. But there's the potential for that. Yeah.
I think it opens up. And I wonder if this was the way they were going to explain, like, there's always these complaints. Why hasn't the Fantastic Four been around the whole time? Why haven't mutants been around? Why hasn't the X-Men been around? The idea of Kang moving them all out so that they're not part of this overall story would have made some sense in the way they were doing it for that particular approach to it. But I wonder if maybe that element is still somehow going to be a part of this new rewrite, because if we see that bridge that Reed is working on, that dimensional bridge that he's working on the chalkboard there in the trailer. So is there something where these people realize that they're in the wrong universe and they've been moved over? I don't know. Is that the way they come into the Marvel universe? I
feel like this is a spoiler that's fine to say. It's like, a decade old or so. But in Secret Wars, the comic book, Franklin Richards has the ability to sort of reset things, and he does reset things. So I do think Franklin Richards is going to be a big part of the Fantastic Four movie. I do think Franklin Richards is going to be important to the Doomsday and Secret Wars movies. And I think that ultimately, between Reed Richards and Franklin Richards and Doctor Strange and whoever, there's going to be a let's reset the multiverse, or let's do one main timeline and let's make one timeline for all, or however you want to do it. And then you take the best of all the different universes and say, let's just make one. And that's what we're doing. And that's where we go. So there's going to be something like that is where we're going to sort of resolve things. And
you have Loki sitting up there in charge of all the timelines.
And Loki's sitting there with the fucking tree. Who's like controlling everything. Like, if that guy, between him and Franklin Richards and Reed Richards and Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange, all say, the entire multiverse collapsed, let's build a better multiverse.
Right.
Let's allow this to be, but let's bring all of this together. Well, then you have a universe where the Fantastic Four always existed, and there's mutants, and there's a Latveria, and there's a Doctor Doom, and we're off to the races.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with that. All right, let's move on to Sony stuff here as our main topic, as we were talking about here earlier, Michael. A lot of stuff got revealed in the Sony presentation last night at CinemaCon. For example, we got ourselves a new title for Spider-Man 4. It's called Brand New Day. We got to see some new images of Beyond the Spider-Verse that is going to be coming out. We heard a release date for it as well. Some really fantastic visuals to look at here from the people who've created this movie. We also got a little bit of some Beatles news that rolled through. So a lot going on in Sony, as well as Karate Kid stuff, which I don't have a picture for, but we'll have in time. So let's talk about the Spider-Man stuff, though, right off the bat. Spider-Man 4 here. What do you think about what was revealed here in terms of the approach they're taking and calling it Brand New Day? Destin Daniel Cretton coming up on the stage to talk about it. Tom Holland videoed in from the set of shooting the Odyssey of Christopher Nolan. He said it'll be a fresh start for the franchise, and a lot of people are connecting the title to a run in the Spider-Man comic books where essentially him and MJ were never married, and that there's this whole storyline about it. So what do you think of the title? What do you think of the way they're approaching it? Do you think it is connected to that storyline in the comics?
I mean, I think it's connected in the most peripheral way. The Brand New Day arc in the comics is a loaded arc. It's not as bad as the Clone Saga for Spider-Man fans, but it's close. So really quickly, and because I think it's interesting, like in the comics post Civil War, Peter Parker had chosen Tony Stark's side, and he had revealed his identity to the world. So everybody knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. And in the One More Day arc, which preceded Brand New Day, the entire world knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. It caused a lot of problems for Spider-Man. It caused a lot of problems for Spider-Man's family. And when an assassin tried to shoot Spider-Man, they shot Aunt May.
Yeah.
And then everybody's favorite Marvel character, Mephisto, showed up and said, "Hey, I'll save Aunt May's life. You just need to give me your marriage." Why did he want a marriage? I don't know. It's a weird Mephisto thing. But that was this thing. So like they took away the fact that Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson were married. And they sort of used this to reboot Spider-Man. So Brand New Day was Peter Parker was just down on his luck. Peter Parker had never married MJ, didn't remember any of those things happened, and it was a way to sort of reboot Spider-Man so that he was no longer married and that he was younger and kind of more like the old classic Spider-Man that people loved. So people who had been reading Spider-Man for years were super pissed because you just took 20 years of continuity and said, fuck you. But that's how they decided to get Spider-Man back to being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Right. And so when you know that that's what the Brand New Day story is, and you're like, oh, so in the Marvel universe, we now have a Spider-Man where the entire world has forgotten who Peter Parker is. Key difference, which makes it a little better, is that Peter Parker still does remember.
Yes. Right.
So it's not like he doesn't remember anything, but this is a world where nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. His friends don't really know who he is. Like Aunt May is gone. Happy doesn't know who he is. He doesn't have the Avengers on his back and he's on his own. So the Brand New Day, even though it's kind of a loaded, arc from the comics, the similarities are there. So a lot of people are presuming that possibly Mr. Negative, is the bad guy. Because Martin Lee, who if you played the PlayStation games, you've fought him a lot. But that's because this is where he was introduced in the Brand New Day arc. So there's some new characters that were introduced in this arc, but it does seem like that's where they're going with things. And so we'll see. I don't know. I think the title's interesting. I think what's more interesting is that this is doing what we had conjectured a while ago, is that it's coming out between Doomsday and Secret Wars. And what that means is really interesting.
Yeah, right. Because a lot of people are saying this is happening in the timeline at the same time as Doomsday. Of course, it came out reports yesterday that like a lot of these actors or characters that you wanted to see in the Doomsday announcement weren't there because their contracts haven't been signed, and there's debates over money.
Rumors about Halle Berry and Famke Janssen and some of these other people that were like, where are the X-women? Like, there's definitely going to be more announcements coming down. I think that was where that Robert Downey Jr. Marvel tweet where he was like, "Yes, that's great. Is there more?" And they're like, "There's always room for more," which means we didn't have the contract signed, so we couldn't say it, but we just want you to know there's other people that are going to be in this movie.
Exactly. So we will see that. And Tom Holland being one of those people as well that they didn't see. So you wonder if maybe Spider-Man 4 is supposed to be happening at the same time as Doomsday is happening. So will there be overlapping of stuff? We will see when we see both of these movies. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the title was a little like, kind of generic and safe and whatever, but connecting it up to the storyline, if they're really using that as a basis for where they're going next with Spider-Man, then I get it, because it gets people excited who've read the run in the comic books, and those who haven't read the run go, okay, well, let's see what you're going to present new. I do like the excitement around it. It's clear that Destin Daniel Cretton is staying on to direct it. I don't think they'd have him presented at CinemaCon if he
Right.
wasn't. So there were rumors that maybe he was going to be moved off of it. So he is staying to direct it. So now we can start to get a little more excited about where we're going. And we're supposedly getting this very soon, Michael. And with Doomsday is supposed to be out in May of 2026, and then the Spider-Man movie a little bit after that. So I'm just real curious to see how they're going to hit all these release dates with the amount of stuff that they're talking about putting in all of these movies. And even the Spider-Man 4 thing, as you were mentioning, if there are all these new characters coming in, there's still casting to be done. There's still, the script isn't even finished yet 100%. So there's a lot still to go on before we see this. So just,
it's going to be interesting. I think that, everyone has their opinions. I'm a big fan of the Spider-Man trilogy of Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. I think they're great. I think they're great movies. I love this take on Spider-Man. I love this take on Spider-Man's universe. This is going to have a different feel. Like it is a fresh start, which means it's going to have a different vibe than those three movies had. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what that vibe is. A lot of people are saying this is the beginning of a new trilogy. Is Tom Holland really in for 3 more Spider-Man movies? Like, we'll see. Is this a trilogy that's going to introduce us to Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen? Or, who knows? Who knows where it's going to go? I do think where I really spend most of my geek time pondering is like, what is Doomsday? And what is like... Is a lot of Doomsday not taking place in our universe? Is this like a Doom shows up and takes Sam and Joaquin Torres and whoever else, and they go to the Fox? Is there a way that we sort of take the incursion somewhere else, and then Spider-Man Brand New Day is him dealing with the after effects of what's happening on our planet? Well, there's a lot of ways that this is all going to potentially connect. And there's a lot of ways that it could be really awesome. And there's a lot of ways that it could fall flat on its face. So we will see. But I will say that, like, despite being pretty disappointed with the state of Marvel of the past couple of years, and despite being having a lot of question marks around the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom and all these things, I am finding myself getting excited about about Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Doomsday, Spider-Man, Secret Wars. This run that's coming up of movies, I'm like, that's a run. This is the make it or break it moment. But I'm if I'm being honest with myself, I'm feeling that like Marvel excitement that I haven't felt in a bit.
Yeah, and if the rumors about the X-Men movie are true, which is that it might fall very quickly after Secret Wars, you can add that to the run. And if they nail everything all the way up to the end of the X-Men movie, then everybody's back on board, and everybody's excited to see what we're going to see in the new phase. Other things we got here, Mike, and of course you being an animation executive and steeped in the world of animation, we got more stuff here for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I just put these up just a second ago, but Phil Lord and director Bob Persichetti and Justin K. Thompson took the stage to announce that the third Spider-Verse outing will be bigger than the past two, and a massive movie, so massive that it'll be the first Sony animated movie to be shown on IMAX screens. And of course, it's picking up right after the cliffhanger of the ending of the second movie. We'll also finally know that the next Spider-Verse movie is landing on June 4th of 2027. And that's when we're going to see this. So what do you think of these images? What do you think of the release date? And then putting this on IMAX, the first ever Sony animated film on IMAX.
I think it's all awesome. It's a long time to wait, but they are clearly just, I think internally at Sony Animation, we think it's a long time. They're like, fuck, are we going to make it in time? Like they're just busting ass to get this thing done. Yeah. I don't know how a movie can be bigger than Across the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Like Across the Spider-Verse was a massive movie. So when they're like, this is bigger than that, I'm like, the fuck are you guys gonna do? But this is one of those things, like, and again, there's all the rumors about them reworking the movie, and it's now coming out like later than we thought it was gonna come out. So there's all those things that are always little alarm bells that you're like, are they gonna pull this off? Are they gonna pull this off? But honestly, given Lord and Miller's track record and given the first two movies, I'm bummed that this is gonna take a while for us to see. I have very little concern about it delivering. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that it's going to be on IMAX screens. I love this saga. Like, I just think this is, from the moment that you took us to a screening to go see the first one to going to see the second one and me like absolutely losing my shit for it. Like, I think that this is one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told. And so I have every confidence right now that they're going to stick the landing.
There's a small section of the Marvel universe, and I don't mean the MCU under Disney. I mean the Marvel universe overall, that has just been amazing, and it's the Spider-Verse films, and have been able to do multiple characters, deal with the multiverse, and do it almost 100% perfect. And that is what really fuels my excitement as well for what we're going to get here. And I imagine that article that came out kind of put them back on their heels, so they're taking a little bit of time to get this thing done because they don't want any more articles about how overworked the VFX people are or the animated people are. So, you know, I don't mind that. We're waiting a little bit when it comes out, and hopefully it'll be coming out at a time when Marvel is on a high, so people are even more excited for more Marvel.
Yeah, but also, like, it doesn't matter. Like, the Spider-Verse movies, like, it doesn't matter what's happening with the MCU. It doesn't matter what's happening with Sony's weird Spider movies, whether they keep making those or not. They say they're not, but we'll see. People are going to be excited about this no matter what, because those first two movies are that good.
Yeah. And the rumors on the Avengers KANG Dynasty leaks were that Miles Morales was going to show up in Secret War in their second installment of Avengers KANG Dynasty. So could we see a Miles Morales in Secret Wars that could lead us into Spider-Verse, either animated or live action?
I mean, I think for a couple reasons, yes.
Yeah.
I think one, as we were saying, they're saying that Brand New Day is a new trilogy. I don't know how much Tom Holland has done a lot of Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
I don't know that he has 3 more movies in him. And at some point, you're going to have to shift. And I think rather than recasting or rebooting or giving us another Peter Parker story, everyone is ready for Miles Morales. Yeah. Also, given everything we said at the beginning about John Boyega and his comments about Finn and people of color in franchises, Miles Morales is that magical thing that has worked in a way that other things don't work. Like, the world at large, even though Peter Parker is still around in the comics and he's still around in all the different versions, like, people have just accepted Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
Yep.
Everybody loves him. Everybody loves his story. We love the Spider-Verse movies. Kids are growing up watching Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which is Ghost Spider, Spin, which is Miles and Peter Parker. Like, Miles Morales is it. And so I think that if the MCU and Sony cast a Miles Morales in live action, and that kid took over the Spider-Man franchise and became the MCU's main Spider-Man, I don't think you would have the reaction from certain parts of the fandom that you would get in other ways. I think everybody would just be like, cool. Yeah,
we're down. I love it. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I'm in that camp as well. The other stuff we got here that's pertaining to us as geeks, Michael, we got a little bit more of a Karate Kid Legends. How about that situation here? The next iteration of the Karate Kid movie franchise, which blends Ralph Macchio, student turned sensei Daniel Russo with the reboot, Jackie Chan's Sifu Han as the two teachers combining forces to tutor the new Karate Kid Ben Wang's Li Fong. They had a live karate demonstration there, which gave way to Macchio and Wang on stage, who talked up the new movie. The movie itself is in cinemas on May 30th. We're just around the corner from this thing. And there was a new trailer as well that was dropped there earlier today for people to take a look at. If you don't know, it's up on YouTube now. So what did you think, of the news and the presentation and all that, and the trailer? Where are you as a Karate Kid fan?
I saw this, not this new trailer, but I saw the first trailer that came out in theaters recently. I went with my friends to go see a movie, and that trailer came on, and I was like, I'm fucking in. My friends rolled their eyes at me. They were like, you are stupid. Like, they were like, we're not gonna go see that movie. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what you think. I am all in. Like, I don't know if it's the mixture of me watching Karate Kid in theaters as a kid. Like, I have a distinct memory, like when Daniel kicks the shit out of that guy in the face at the end, does the whole crane thing. I thought my little 7-year-old, 8-year-old, however old I was, I lost my shit. I thought that was the greatest thing I had ever seen in my entire life. I thought it was great. I took my friend and his son several years later right here in LA to see the reboot with Jackie Chan, which was like fine. Like I didn't think it was great, but my friend's son thought it was awesome. Wanted to take karate after he got out of it. And so I was like, well, that's cool. Then Cobra Kai comes along and sort of is just nostalgia catnip for everyone who liked the Karate Kid. And they kind of turned it into something that became this thing that like people are actually interested in. Yeah. And so this coming out and mixing the two and doing the thing, having Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, like, is it going to be cheesy? Probably.
Right.
But it looks fun. Like it just looks like a fun movie, like a fun movie for kids, which is what Karate Kid should be. Like it doesn't look like it's gonna like, you know, rock adults and be the dark take on it's not like the Dark Knight Returns version of Karate Kid. Everybody calm down. But like for a reboot of this franchise, which is what Sony is trying to do, is like, let's get a new generation of kids to be into this franchise so we can make more Karate Kid movies. I think it's a smart move and it looks fun. I'm going to be there and I don't care. Y'all can make fun of me. I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited as well. As someone who saw this in his teen years at a formidable age in my life in the movie theater, same director who directed Rocky. There was so many things about it that just kind of worked for me as an underdog kid in dealing with his own stuff and trying to kind of get, you know, come across that stuff and get over that stuff. It was great to see it in the theater. So I've always been a Karate Kid fan. Yeah, Karate Kid 3 or the Hilary Swank one, not so strongly.
No. We don't talk about that one.
We don't talk about that. Cobra Kai coming back was great.
But Karate Kid 2 gave us The Glory of Love, which is one of the all-time great 80s bangers.
Which you are a great singer of at karaoke. That's right. Yeah, exactly. And so we get that. And Cobra Kai was great. You know, I got YouTube Red for Cobra Kai, for God's sakes, back when it was called that. But of course, that's kind of gotten a bit cheesy. Although the last few episodes, apparently, they nailed it, which I've got to catch up on.
I mean, I'm way behind because it definitely reached a point for me where I was like, okay, it was a fun, like in this era that we are living in right now, which I don't know if we're coming to the end of it or not, but the era of like the requel, like taking the cast from some movie from 30 years ago and bringing them back and doing the new cast and doing a thing like Cobra Kai. In those first couple seasons, they nailed it. Yeah. Like they took a character that you're like, why would anybody give a shit about this character and made them the focus? And they nailed that. Like it was really, really smart. And so is this going to do for the movie franchise what Cobra Kai did when it came out? I don't know. But like, I'm good to see Daniel LaRusso train some kids.
Well, the new trailer, Ben Wang looks fantastic. As the main kid, and the one they dropped today, just the move. There's more of the story, more with Ming-Na Wen in it as his mom,
as the mom, and like him kind of joining the 5 boroughs competition, and like there's a girl. Like it is like straight down the line. This is what a Karate Kid movie is.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And it seems like we're leading to one hell of a finale on that rooftop. So that there's a lot here that feels similar to the original film and the remake, but also kind of forging a new path, which is great. I love that.
Also, I love that Mr. Miyagi gets his due.
Yes, 100%.
Like that's like just as another thing that I'm like, I like that this movie kind of revolves around Mr. Miyagi is still like a presence in it, even though obviously he's not in the movie.
Right. No, good point. Excellent point, Michael, for sure. All right, our last thing, and this is my throwing it in, but it was also announced, Michael, right at the end here that we are getting these 4 solo Beatles movies that will be a biopic on John, Paul, George, and Ringo. It's being touted as a 4-movie cinematic event. These are 4 separate movies, each one focusing on a different band member's perspective, all shot across 1 year and then released together in April of 2028. And Sony CEO Tom Rothman said that, quote, it's the first bingeable theatrical experience. Don't tell the Lord of the Rings fans who go every year to watch them all back to back. But Paul Mescal is playing Paul McCartney, who you see there. Harris Dickinson is John Lennon. Barry Keoghan as Ringo Starr. And Joseph Quinn as George Harrison. And all 4 appeared on stage. So your thoughts, A, on them being cast to play the 4 Beatles, and B, the idea of releasing all 4 of them in the same damn month. That's insane. So, your thoughts?
I am not a fan of musical biopics.
Okay.
I went on this whole tirade when we all saw Better Man actually over the holiday break. Right. Where like, okay, that one had a chimp in it, so that was something. But like biopics in general kind of all to me get a little same. It's like, oh, here's someone who was really talented as a kid. They rose up to stardom. Stardom was not what they anticipated. They slept with a lot of people. They did drugs. They did a bunch of things. They got really in a bad place. And then they either die or they have a big comeback and you show them at a concert in their old age and it's great. And like, that's like every biopic you've ever seen. And I'm always like, with Better Man, I was like, at least they did this cool thing where they made Robbie Williams a monkey and there was some interesting but it still was like, I was really talented. I got really famous. I did a lot of drugs. And then I kind of came back at the end. It was the same thing. This is interesting. And I think for the Beatles, you have to do something big.
Yeah.
Like just doing a movie about the Beatles, it just feels like it doesn't embody what the Beatles are to the history of music. This cast is great. If you told me we're going to cast the Beatles, I'm like, oh, good luck with that. This is a great cast.
Yeah.
First of all. Like, this is just like across the board. You're like, yeah, these guys, this is a high quality, high talent cast.
Yeah.
But the bigger thing for me is this whole 4 movies at the same time. Like, that's an event. Like, that's something I've not seen before.
Right.
Like, we talk a lot. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Marvel, obviously. This thing, like, the thing that Marvel is going to be the most famous for in the long terms of history is being, you know, the superhero genre at its peak, but also Marvel interconnected different movies in a way that had never happened before. So when they did, now we're used to it and DC's doing it and everybody's doing it. But like when Marvel came along and said, we're going to do these 3 movies and then do the Avengers, everyone's like, fuck you, that's not going to work. And it did. And it was cool. And whenever there's something that happens in movies that you're like, oh, well, that's new.
Yeah.
I've not done that. Like this gets me excited, even though I'm not the Beatles fan that you are. I like the Beatles. But this whole concept of 4 different movies from 4 different perspectives that are all going to kind of come out together and you got to go see them all and binge them. And like, that feels like I've never done that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
I think you nailed it when you said, if you're going to do something about the Beatles, you got to do something this big, this dangerous, this bold. And I think that's 100% right. And doing it like this is very bold. And so and you got someone like Sam Mendes behind all 4 of them, who's a fantastic film director. So you have a certain level of trust that it's going to work. And these incredible actors, as you pointed out, to be a part of this cast also gives you another level of trust. So you hope that they nail it. You hope that they get it all right. And that we are celebrating this as a unique experience in the world of film in April of 2028. So I hope so. Yeah.
I will say, I mean, like the other thing about, and we're going to cover the rest of CinemaCon with Shannon in a couple of days when we do our show later this week. But like one of the things that I will say for Sony and their CinemaCon presentation, and this ending on the Beatles is a good note, is that we give Sony a lot of shit on here.
Yes, we do.
For their spider nonsense. True. But this whole presentation between Spider-Man Brand New Day, the new Spider-Verse movie, of course, like Jumanji 3 is coming along, the Anaconda movie with Paul Rudd and Jack Black, but then things like this Beatles thing. And you know, 28 years later and some of these other, like their CinemaCon presentation had a really nice mix of massive IP, 4-quadrant family film. Let's get everybody in here. And some other projects that were like, oh, that seems more interesting. This is a really director-led film. This is a really interesting concept. And then some really fun horror movies, some good, I would say the biggest thing I took away, obviously Brand New Day and all, what does that mean for the MCU is big for us. But the biggest thing I took away from the CinemaCon presentation is it was really well balanced.
Yes. Yeah.
Big movies, smaller movies, interesting swings, and then this Beatles thing, which is like, I've never seen that before. And like, I really respect this whole balance that they're coming out with. Is it all going to work? No. Is some of it going to be like just stinky and it's going to be a bomb and we're going to be like, that was fucking horrible? Yes.
Right.
But like, this is what I think this is the balance that I think studios should aim for.
It's a great point, man. Yeah, because they announced the Zelda movie is officially happening March.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Zelda movie. That too.
2027 it's supposed to come out. Neil Blomkamp's version of Starship Troopers, which is not going to be a remake, but a new iteration of it is going to come out. They talked about the new Godzilla -1 director having a mystery film that J.J. Abrams is producing. So you're right. Across the board, it worked all across by balancing out their approach to what they're doing and showing a complete version of what Sony Pictures is. I think you're right. It was a very successful first presentation for this CinemaCon weekend, but the overall drive or the overall theme is getting people back into the movie theaters. And that's clear what Rothman was saying from the beginning. And this is a way you do that, I think. So, all right, well, there you go. That's our episode of the Geek Buddies. Thank you all so much for joining us here as we broke down all the stuff going on in the world of entertainment. Of course, we missed Shannon McClung, but Michael and I soldiered on without him, and we hope you enjoyed it. Michael, what do we have to tell them?
If you would like to follow us, you can do so on Twitter at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, you can do so at The Rocha Says, and you can follow me at MKToon. In addition, you can also smash that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What do you think about John Boyega's comments on Star Wars, all of the Superman leaks, the Kang Dynasty that we are never going to see, and everything that came out from Sony? And if you love Man of Steel and you hate everything I said about Zack Snyder, go ahead and put it down there too, and maybe we'll get into a discussion about it. Who knows? And if after you do all that, leave us some stars and comments if you're listening to us on a podcast, so we go up in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the 52 dings on my phone from one comment. I can't wait. But yes, as Michael said.
And another thing about Man of Steel. He shouldn't have cracked his neck.
Sorry.
Well, there we go. That again. As we said, we will be back later on in the week to cover most of the CinemaCon presentations there, and look for that a little bit later on here from us here at the
Geek
Buddies.
Buddies.